In the beginning, there was as yet no moral or social order. Men knew their mothers only, not their fathers. When hungry, they searched for food. When satisfied, they threw away the remnants. They devoured their food hide and hair, drank the blood, and clad themselves in skins and rushes. Then came Fuji, and looked upward, and contemplated the images in the heavens, and looked downward, and contemplated the occurrences on earth. He united man and wife, regulated the 5 stages of change, and laid down the laws of humanity. He devised the 8 trigrams in order to gain mastery over the world. Fuji was born in the lower middle reaches of the Yellow River in a place called Cheng. The Chinese traditionally believed that Fuji could assume dragon form. Fuji supposedly had the body of a serpent, and the first dragon was said to have appeared to him in 2962 BCE. According to legend, the land was swept by a great flood, and only Fuji and his sister Nuwa survived. They retired to Kunlan Mountain, where they prayed for a sign from the Emperor of Heaven. The divine being approved their union, and the siblings set about procreating the human race. Fuji then came to rule over his descendants, although reports of his long reign vary between sources from 115 to 116 years. The author of Lirong, thought to have lived sometime between 618 and 907 CE, gives this account in Du Ye Zi, Volume 3. There was a brother and a sister living on Kunlan Mountain, and there were no ordinary people at that time. The sister's name was Nuwa. The brother and sister wished to become husband and wife, but felt shy and guilty about this desire. So the brother took his younger sister to the top of Kunlan Mountain and prayed, "If heaven allows us to be man and wife, please let the smoke before us gather. If not, please let the smoke scatter." The smoke before them gathered together, so Nuwa came to live with her elder brother. She made a fan with grass to hide her face. The present custom of women covering their faces with fans actually originated with this story. Fuji and Nuwa were often depicted as having human bodies and dragon tails that were intertwined, and holding measuring instruments that represent the yang male and yin female principles that permeate everything in the universe. A stone tablet dated 160 CE shows Fuji and Nuwa. Fuji lived for 197 years and died at a place called Chen, where his mausoleum can still be found. The Jing, the Book of Change. The Jing, or Classic of Change, is one of the 5 classics of Chinese literature. It can be traced as far back as 3,000 years in written form, and the Chinese claim that it was passed down as oral tradition for 2,000 years before that. The Jing has been useful to identify order in random events by tossing yarrow sticks or coins. The Jing most likely evolved from an even more ancient divining system known as the tortoise oracle. One early method of divination was to heat animal bones in a fire and study the cracks that appeared. Another method was to interpret the markings on tortoise shells. Such methods were probably employed to consult about affairs of state, fortunes of war, proposed marriages, etc. This oracular connection to the tortoise may have resulted in one of the legends of how the Jing originated. We are told that around 3000 BC, the Emperor Fuji was meditating by the Yellow River, when a tortoise emerged from the water, and the markings on its shell revealed to him the trigrams of the Jing. The 8 trigrams were later paired to produce a more sophisticated system with 64 hexagrams. Stories say that in 1143 BC, whilst in prison, King Wen systematically organized these hexagrams into cohesive systems that included a commentary, and that this has given us the structure of the Jing that we know today. Around 1000 BC, yarrow sticks were being used in place of tortoises, making divination much more accessible and widely available, and perhaps meaning that tortoises could now sleep a little bit easier. It is further suggested that around 500 BC, Confucius may have added further commentaries to Yi Jing, and to him are attributed the words, "If I could add years to my life, I would dedicate them to the study of the Yi Jing." The Yi Jing can be said to be a philosophical system based on higher mathematics. It utilizes strong solid lines that are considered to be yang, and yielding broken lines that are considered to be yin. These lines are combined into groups of 3, which give us the trigrams that symbolically represent upper line heaven, middle line humanity, and lower line earth. Much later in the development of the Yi Jing, Xiao Yang, who lived from AD 1011 to 1077, a Song dynasty philosopher and cosmologist, poet, and historian, drew a pictorial representation of how the trigrams emerged from the original yin-yang split, and how this produced their order in the earlier heaven or primal arrangements. The name Yi Jing. Yi, a verb, it implies to change or to exchange or substitute one thing for another. And Jing here means classic, text, derived from its original meaning of regularity or persistency, implying that the text describes the ultimate way which will not change throughout the flow of time. This same character was later appropriated to translate the Sanskrit word sutra into Chinese, in reference to Buddhist scripture. In this sense, the two concepts, inasmuch as they mean treatise or great teaching, are equivalent. The Yi Jing is a reflection of the universe in miniature. The word Yi has three meanings: ease and simplicity, change and transformation, and invariability. Thus, the three principles underlying the Yi Jing are the following. 1. Simplicity. The root of the substance. The fundamental law underlying everything in the universe is utterly plain and simple, no matter how abstruse or complex some things may appear to be. 2. Variability. The use of the substance. Everything in the universe is continually changing. By comprehending this, one may realize the importance of flexibility in life, and may cultivate the general attitude for dealing with a multiplicity of diverse situations. The essence of the persistency. The essence of the substance. While everything in the universe seems to be changing, among the changing tides there is a persistent principle, a central rule which does not vary with space and time. The lines. The Yi Jing gets its oracular power from the throwing of the yarrow sticks or coins, which then form lines which are either broken yin or unbroken yang. These lines are then stacked to form a trigram. The trigrams. In the Yi Jing there are 8 possible trigrams made up of the broken yin or unbroken yang. They are then put together from bottom to top in groups of 3 to form the upper and lower trigrams. The lower trigrams, the first 3 lines of the hexagram, called the lower trigram, are seen as the inner aspect of the change that is occurring, while at the upper trigrams, the last 3 lines of the hexagram, or the outer aspect, the change described is the inner, personal aspect relating to the outer external situation. It was the first of these sequences that led to the 17th century father of calculus, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, to discover the functioning of the binary system. A Jesuit priest who was based in China showed the configuration to Leibniz, who investigated further and discovered that if the value of 0 were attributed to each solid line, and the value of 1 to each broken line, it would give the binary notation for the numbers 0 through 63. The uncovering of the binary code allowed Leibniz to change the path of mathematics for all time. The lines are cast from the bottom upwards, and when in a circle they are read from the center outwards. The Yi Jing began to gain some recognition in the West from the 1920s, when Carl Jung began to look into this ancient Chinese oracle as a means of bringing to consciousness that which is buried in our unconsciousness, and as a tool to study the synchronistic relationship. Still more recent research has uncovered amazing similarities between the Yi Jing and the structure of DNA, the thread-like material in living cells that is the genetic code, which determines everything about us. It is a spiral molecule in the form of a double helix made of 2 times 4 chemical bases that form 8 times 8, i.e. 64 codons, or genetic words. Maybe the ancient Chinese sages knew intuitively about the code of life. The Yi Jing is therefore the earliest known example of binary notation, this being the smallest complete arithmetic number system as well as the language that enables computers to work. This layout of the 64 hexagrams could not have been mere chance. And describing the discovery of these diagrams, Cyril Javary considered it to be an invention in the same sense that Newton invented gravity. In other words, discovery of something implicit in the cosmic order. Now we will discuss some of the more influential characters in the development of the Yi Jing. The Duke of Zhou. The Duke of Zhou, or Chou, was the brother of Emperor Wu. Only 3 years after defeating the Shang dynasty, Emperor Wu died, leaving the task of consolidating the dynasty's power to the Duke of Zhou. Instead of assuming the throne for himself, however, he served as regent for Emperor Wu's son, and watching over the young emperor until he was old enough to rule. According to legend, he annotated the 64 hexagrams and completed the classic Yi Jing. Throughout the long and splendid history of the Yi Jing, we have seen that it has influenced many, but I believe its ultimate message lies in the fact that it continues to be read, interpreted, and enjoyed. I believe that we have yet to see the full extent of what the Yi Jing may do, and the powers that have yet to be unlocked, and perhaps in the future we will discover even more incredible ways to unlock its secrets.